Imagine discovering that the greatest weapon you possess isn't your voice, not your influence, not your talent, but your hunger for God. Picture this. You are standing in a palace of marble and gold. Servants move quietly through the halls. You are wearing a royal crown, but it feels heavier than iron, because in less than 72 hours, everything you love could disappear. This was the silent storm inside Queen Esther. We often see Esther as a fearless hero of the Bible, polished and confident. But the truth is far more human. She was a young woman staring into an impossible situation. If she stayed silent, her people would die. If she spoke up to the king without being invited, she could be executed instantly. It was a lose-lose moment. Have you ever felt that kind of pressure? When your heart beats so loud you can almost hear it in your ears. When you feel trapped between fear and responsibility. When your comfort suddenly feels like a prison. The turning point in Esther's story didn't happen in the throne room. It happened in surrender. Instead of rushing to the king with arguments or strategies, Esther did something unexpected. She stopped. She told Mordecai in Esther 4:16, "Go, gather all the Jews, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days. I and my servants will fast as you do." Esther understood something powerful. Before confronting a king on earth, she needed to surrender to the King of Heaven. So she surrounded herself with people who would seek God with her. For 3 days they fasted no food, no water, just prayer, surrender, and dependence on God. This wasn't a religious ritual. This was total surrender. Esther was saying, "God, I cannot solve this. I cannot control this. I cannot save my people, but you can." And something incredible happens when a person truly surrenders to God. Fear loses its grip. Pride falls apart. Control disappears. And suddenly, the heart becomes open for God's power to move. Those 3 days were not just about hunger. They were about transformation. On the first day, Esther faced the reality of the crisis. Her fear was real. On the second day, her strength was gone. She realized she wasn't the hero of the story. But by the third day, something changed. She was empty of herself and full of faith. That's when she said the words that changed history. "If I perish, I perish." That wasn't hopelessness. That was freedom. Because Esther had already surrendered everything to God. Her reputation, her safety, even her life. She walked into the king's court, not as a frightened queen, but as a woman who had already placed her life in God's hands. And when she surrendered, God moved. The king extended his scepter. Haman's plan was destroyed, and an entire nation was saved. Here's the question for us today. We may not face a royal decree like Esther, but we all face our own Hamans. Fear, anxiety, pressure from friends, situations that feel impossible. Most people try to solve these battles with more effort, more noise, more distractions. But Esther shows us another way. Sometimes the greatest victory doesn't start with action, it starts with surrender. Esther surrounded herself with people who would seek God, emptied herself through fasting, and trusted that God would fight the battle she could not win. And the same invitation exists for us. What if the breakthrough you're praying for doesn't come from trying harder, but from surrendering deeper? What if the wall in front of you isn't meant to be climbed, but brought down by God? Esther starved her fear so she could feed her faith. And maybe today, God is asking you the same question. What is the palace of comfort you're hiding in? And what is the surrender you're avoiding? Because when a heart fully surrenders to God, impossible stories start to change. And the greatest power you will ever discover is a soul that is completely dependent on Him. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Sight Kids and Niños con Vision.